So, um, what I've noticed over the last couple of weeks, particularly in the particularly in the case of Paul Sykes, is there's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon, and they're just basically doing it for views. Um, they don't even particularly know the story. Now, what are the thing? What a lot of the things I get shot at is well, you never met him. You never met him. You never met Lee Duffy. You never met Roy Shaw. You never met Paul Sykes, whatever. For instance, in them Paul Sykes books was um, two of his sons, his only sibling, his niece, victims, um, shopkeepers, prisoners, prison governors, top chief of Wakefield of West Yorkshire Police. Few famous people like Charles Bronson, Johnny Nelson, Peter Fury, Glenn McCrory. Yeah, there's 3 books. So there's 50 in the first one, 34 in the second one, and a couple in the second one. A third one, it was more or less me. So I basically spent 10 years researching to the point of borderline obsession. And the reality of it is someone come along, bought the rights to my books, and then there's going to be a film. So the script has been written from my extensive research, from Paul's one book, my 3 books, and Warcry Publishing have done another 2. Not to do with me. So there's 6 books in total. So I've, listen, I have no reason to. I never knew him. I don't have any emotional connection to Paul Sykes. Find him interesting? Yeah, absolutely. He's far more interesting than anyone I've ever studied or worked on. But it's not personal with me. But I presented stuff in facts, hence the reason why the film and the documentary and some of the people really, really close as Paul Sykes as you can get, your Delroy Showers, your Ronnie Trelfalls, your Davy Dumfords, Clyde Broughtons. These were people who were as close to him as possible. I went to stay with his wife several times. Lovely, lovely lady. One of his wives, I should say. He had several. So, yeah. So this week, I'm going to be in Rotherham with Junior Witter. And one of the people who I interviewed over the years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago, was Neil Malpass. Now, he was kind of the nemesis of Paul Sykes, if you like. They fought each other twice. But he got quite close to Paul. So I'm going to be with Neil, hopefully next week. And, there's a lot of clout chasers on YouTube, and they're using the name. So if they type in Paul Sykes, these are from people who've never met him. Listen, I never met him. Never ever said I did. But I went and thoroughly investigated to the point where a film company come along and said, we're going to invest in several £1,000,000 and write the script from this. So I'd obviously done my research. But there's people out there now just making all kinds of nonsense up. These people must know more than prison governors and the chief of West Yorkshire Police and people who've been in prison with them and all this. So that's a typical clout chaser. It's for someone who's, once you've clicked on that, they get the view. Hence the reason $3 to $5 for every 1,000 views. £2.20 for every 1,000 views. So if you can do a video which reads scandal, Paul Sykes, paedophile or rapist on it, then you're going to get a lot of clicks. Hence the reason they will get the money. And that's the way particularly YouTube works. I could do a video today and I could get thousands of views on it, but I don't really want to embarrass myself because I pride myself on not being, I don't need to do that. I don't need to tell lies. YouTube's not even really a big business for me. I write books. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there now and they're using the name and they're like, oh, he done this and he done that. And, you know, I don't think it's any secret that Paul Sykes was a homosexual. But as for a sexual deviant, rapist and all this, I looked into the man's life more than anyone who ever has. I really, really did. I become obsessed with him. You know, that chief of West Yorkshire Police said to me, listen, I've got no reason to lie. I hate the man. But, you know, there was nothing. Was he gay? Was he homosexual? Yes, absolutely. It was only something he ever did inside prison. It's personally not for me. But, you know, I think there's no evidence out there to suggest that he was any other way. You know, yes, he was homosexual. Yes, he was gay. But, you know, there's people out there and they say, no, he was a nonce, he was a rapist and all this. And there's no substance behind it. And believe me, I really, really did check. You know, I think if you really want the ins and outs of the man's life, read Unfinished Agony, Further Agony, and obviously the last one was Final Agony. I could have put so much hearsay in that, and it even come from good sources at times, but I thought it's not 100%, so I'm going to leave it out. But yeah, there's a lot of people on YouTube, and they're like, yeah, you know, we can type this thing and people will click on it and get the views. And even though it's a load of lies and people have the stories mixed up, one guy has the story mixed up and he said Terry Mitchell hit him over the head with a chair. Now, Terry Mitchell fought Sykes in 1979. The case he's referring to happened in the summer of 1997, and it wasn't Terry Mitchell, it was Colin Beaumont. So, what's that? 19 years out and two completely different characters. So yeah, there's you know, I don't watch him anymore now, but I sat and listened to him and I'm like, that's good. But for people who don't know who's who and what's what, they'll believe it. You know, I'm in London next month and I'm going to pop in Western Edge Studios pictures. So I'm going to hopefully give you an update on the film because that's where the office is. But yeah, clout chasers, there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot in Jack the Ripper, and because it was 134 years ago, people don't know. So people are like, oh, well, it was the royal family. Oh yeah, Prince Eddie did it. When in actual fact, the royal theory, the alleged Jack the Ripper in that case, he wasn't even in the country for 4 of the 5 murders. But because people don't really know any different, and everyone's dead, and the kids are dead, and now the grandkids are dead, they don't know. So they go, yeah, Jack the Ripper was a royal. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot with the Sykes thing. Listen, the fact of the matter is, he never ever had any convictions for any kind of sexual crimes, and it was never, as far as I'm concerned, there wasn't even any NFAs, and that's what the police have told me. I've heard a lot of other stories, but I spoke to 4 police officers. And one was as high as you can get. And he said it's all a complete load of lies. So, yeah, Paul Sykes, listen, I've got no connection with him other than he was a piece of work. I never met him. I've got to know a couple of his sons, a couple of family members. You know, not everyone's been for it. Some are against it. Some are for it. Some have said, oh, Paul would have loved it. He's... you know, but I've met a lot of people, and for me, he was, I suppose he put me on the map as an author, but I don't have any emotional ties. he was an unbelievable character. He was a one-off, you know. Someone often described him. He's a comedian. I forgot his name. He's in one of the books, quite famous. He described him as, you'll meet a Paul Sykes in every Witherspoon you go to. I think that was quite a funny way. Very opinionated. Could you imagine what he'd have thought of the COVID and all that? But yeah, he was a one-off character, and you don't often see them kind of people. Did a lot of it. Did a lot in his life, albeit not all of it was great. But either way, regardless of your emotion, you'll certainly have strong emotions regardless of whether it's for good or whether it's for bad. But yeah, clout chasers. I can make videos out here now. I could do a video on cricket or cars. I don't have a clue about them, but I could make something up, and I could get the views. So yeah, just be careful who you listen to and who you don't listen to. As I said, the police, I spoke to prison governors, and I spoke to figures in authority at the highest, and none of it was ever there. So obviously, I spoke to Phil Wheatley, prison governor. He was on the documentary. Still works in the prison department today. So, and he I think he had interacted with Paul Sykes for something like 20 years, and he actually said, well, I never ever heard anything like that. So for a governor of Hull prison to never say, I've never heard any any rape stories. I mean, one guy who lived next door to Paul Sykes for 3 years was Chris Lambianu, and he said to me, he said, if he'd have been doing things like that, he said he wouldn't have been able to walk around. He said, I don't care how hard he was. He said there was people in them wings who were never getting out. And his life would have been under attack every single day. So, for people who haven't been in prison, you just don't get the time to walk around and do all these things that these alleged. I've been in lots of different prisons, and you just do not get the time to be going around raping people and all this, and just overall, the facts of the matter are there was never any convictions or even allegations for that. It was just all hearsay rumours. So make of that what you will. Anyway, I'll hopefully be speaking to Neil Malpass next week when I'm in Rotherham. And I think he fought him twice, and he knew him very, very well. And I'll put that question to him. I'll put that question to him a lot, and we'll hear what Neil Malpass has to say rather than the people who don't know. Thanks for your time, guys. Don't forget to click and subscribe.